But I will say this. I feel like the game, at least from my testing of it, is good enough to come out right now. Welcome everyone to Press Start. My name is Darsay and I hope you're all having a wonderful week. This past weekend, Bandai Namco held an open beta test for Gundam Evolution, the team-based first-person shooter that is coming from them, of course, centered around Gundam, the anime that a lot of people love, of course, a long-running anime series. I signed up for it and I got into it and played it this past weekend. Played several hours of it. I think I got up to about 4 hours of play. So I'm kind of just giving my thoughts on how I thought that playtest went, what I think of the game if it was to come out now, and what I hope is going to come to the game as it rolls out in the future. But before I do, if this is your first time to the channel or you are returning for another video, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can be notified of future videos. And if you like what I'm doing, give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment down below on how excited are you for Gundam Evolution. All of this really helps with the YouTube algorithm and potentially can expand on what I'm able to offer in the future. So without further ado, let's get into this video. So first off, let me just start by saying the game is essentially Gundam Overwatch. So if I end up accidentally saying Gundam Overwatch, that's essentially what it is. But the one thing that I really liked about Gundam Evolution is it really featured more shooting mechanics than Overwatch does. I know for some people they're going to be screaming at me, what do you mean there's more shooting? But every single Gundam had a gun attached to them. Whereas, some of them have Overwatch, the rockets, the bombs, like Junkrat has the grenade launcher, whereas in Gundam, all of them had a gun to it. Some of them were, of course, an automatic rifle. Some of them were a 3-round burst, but I just felt there was more gun action in Gundam Evolution than Overwatch does. On top of that, everything in Gundam Evolution feels quick, very fast-paced. It's something that you don't really expect with a Gundam-type game because you're thinking of controlling these big, mechanical suits. And in Gundam Evolution, everything was kind of quick and moved around fast, and there was a lot of dodging mechanics. I know each Gundam has a different number of dashes that they can use before it needs to recharge. Some of them that I used had 2 dashes, some only had 1 dash, but it did vary up how each one felt, and the matches went fairly quick as well. I think the most I played in a single match took about 20 minutes overall. So that was nice too. It felt like I was getting through games very quickly. Every suit, while being quick, felt different. Didn't feel like it was a carbon copy of each one. They brought different skills with them. Of course, as I just alluded to, different guns with them. And of course, they had different ultimates. But it was a nice touch because it is planned to be free to play, so I could have seen them cutting some corners, and I didn't necessarily feel like it was cutting corners in those aspects. So as I said, it is essentially Gundam Overwatch, and with the style and the play, it is very likened to Overwatch if you are an Overwatch veteran. Especially at the end of the games, you saw an MVP screen that was basically the little cinematic that you would get from the Overwatch victory screen. The only thing that was different in that aspect was I didn't see a final play that would show after the MVP screen that happens in Overwatch. That could get added when it comes to a later release, but it wasn't there at the beginning. Also, the game modes were slightly different, but again, very similar to what you would expect in Overwatch. You had the control point aspect where there was one point on the map that you had to control for a period of time to increase the percentage all the way up. I think the one varying factor for that one though is in Overwatch, if I remember correctly, it's been a few years since I've played Overwatch, but the control point was always one spot and it didn't move throughout the match. However, in Gundam Evolution, they would have 3 points on the map, an A, a B, and a C, and it would vary after some time. So B might start off with it, and then after a certain set of time, it would switch over to C. Also, in Gundam Evolution, there was a mode basically like a search and destroy. One team would be on defense, one team would be on offense, and the team that was on offense would need to go and find this spot that they would need to plant a bomb, have it explode. Once it exploded, they would then get to progress to a new point further in the map, do the same thing. Once they destroyed that second point, they won that round, and then it would flip sides. This mode was fairly nice. I did feel like this one was the one that dragged on a little bit more than any of the other modes, but I did like it because I am a fan of the search and destroy type of gameplay, so it played two game modes that I appreciate and want. And then finally, the last game mode was you'd basically push into a certain area on the map, need to hold it for a while. Once you held it for a certain time, the defense would have to move further into their map to try to defend their second control point. You would then go forward, try to get that second control point, and then, of course, flip sides. Outside of that, you have your typical type of loot box system, especially for it being a free-to-play game. So as you progress, as you level up, you're going to have abilities to get what were basically loot boxes. You would then, of course, open that box up. There'd be this little animation. I'm likely playing it over this right now, and you would get some things from there. The one thing I didn't like about this aspect was, at least in this beta, there was no way to skip the animation, so you had to watch it every time. And there also was no way to open multiples. So at some point during the beta, Bandai Namco gave you 10 pods to open, and I had to sit there and watch the animation every time. Now, I did time the animations. It was about 6 seconds each time, so it's not too long, but at the same time, when you're trying to quickly go through and open those up so you can get back to playing the game, it does add up. So hopefully they do add a way to open them all up at the same time, and or a way to skip the animation so you can get through them a lot quicker. There's also a battle pass that was in the beta test. I don't know if any of this progress is actually going to carry over to the release, but there were 20 levels in there, and let me just say right here, it was going to take quite a bit to try to get through all 20. Now, they did have some daily missions that help you get through that battle pass quicker, and I did utilize that. However, just if you finish those dailies, which there was only 3 per day, it was going to take you quite a bit to get through the rest of that battle pass. With these skins and the different cosmetics that you could get, some of them were cool, some of them were pretty basic. I know the one that I got that I really did like is this legendary suit for the Gundam. It was really cool. It's like green and black, and I can't remember exactly what they called it, but it looked really cool. But some of them were also just like basic kind of reskins, and one of them was almost little cell shades just randomly on a mobile suit, nothing else really. So I hope that there is more variety when the full game comes out. Some of the things that I didn't like with the game is, while I understand you don't want it to be a match where the offense has no ability to get back to the control points or the markers that they're trying to get to very quickly, but I did feel at times that on defense, you would spawn really far away and it would take you quite a bit of time to try to get back to the control point. I just felt sometimes that it felt like I was needing to take quite a bit of time to get back to the action, and that's kind of what I wanted. The other thing that I didn't like, sometimes when I was firing and shooting, it felt like there was a slight delay. Now, I will say, for a caveat, that some people may not have noticed, but when you first booted up the game, it automatically matched you with Asia matchmaking, and you had to, before you actually went into the game, hit the drop-down menu and switch it to North America. So there were some times where the game felt really smooth and really great, but then there were times where I would shoot and it would feel like there was a slight delay, or I would throw out my skill and there would be like the hand motion that would go forward, and then like a second later the ability would actually come out. When I switched to the North America server after I remembered to do so, I don't remember having that sort of issue, but there were some times where there were some stuttering. So that is something, of course, that's going to happen with every online game. I know it's not always going to be smooth, but when I have 500 megabytes per second internet and I am hardwired in, I hope to avoid those as often as that they did pop up. Again, not saying they popped up a ton, but they did pop up more than I would have thought. When it comes to full release, hopefully that will be fixed and run smoother. But outside of that, I actually didn't have too much problems with this. I find this game a lot of fun, and especially because it's free to play, I'm definitely going to dive into this more. You can have a lot of fun even without paying for the game. Now, the big caveats or the big question is going to be what kind of microtransactions are going to be in this game and how greedy are they going to be. But I will say this. I feel like the game, at least from my testing of it, is good enough to come out right now. I didn't feel like there were issues that would prohibit the game from coming out anytime in the next 3 months or so, 3 to 4 months. The biggest factor always is going to be server. What is the servers going to be like? Can it withstand a huge number of people jumping into this game, especially with it being free and it having the Gundam anime skin tied to it? There could be a lot of people who jump into this all at once, and the servers could definitely overload without having the right systems in place. But at least from this weekend, I feel they're in place, and I definitely could want to see that play soon. I want to get back into it. I really enjoyed it. But let me know what you thought about the Gundam Evolution beta test this weekend, and also if you got to get into it, and what are your thoughts on how it played out. That, again, really helps me with the YouTube algorithm. So again, leave those comments down below. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up if you like what it is doing here. And also, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and consider hitting that bell so you can be notified of every time that I post. Thank you once again for tuning into this video here at Press Start. And remember, as always, your gaming news starts right here.